So I just wanted to thank everyone for coming this evening, and tonight we are talking about B corporations. And before I start though, I'll give you a little bit of background on Etsy and how I came to work at Etsy. So I spent a lot of time in my 20s trying to figure out what the hell I was doing with my life. So I was a DJ in a drag queen club. I made a backpack out of a vacuum cleaner that I tried to take to market unsuccessfully. I made these, basically the first wine charms, but for beer glasses, and sold them for $1 each at the Dollar Pots night at the Greyhound Hotel, just so I could have beer and pool money. So entrepreneur, definitely. Successful one, debatable. So I had a jewellery business, which I had for 5 years. And I went to an Etsy meetup in 2011 and met Matt Stitchcombe, who at the time was our international marketing manager. And we got to talking, we got on quite well, and I sent him an email and said, I want to do this really amazing event in Melbourne that really supports people who want to start their own creative businesses. And he was like, you're awesome, we don't want to do that, but do you want a job? Thanks, okay, I'll take that job. So that's how I started working at Etsy. So what is Etsy? Does everyone know what Etsy is here? No? That's okay. I'm going to tell you all about it. Does anyone know? Do you know? Great, you know, excellent. So Etsy is basically a platform where you can sell handmade vintage goods. It's considered the world's handmade marketplace. It's a platform where a small business, someone who creates their own items or sells vintage items or sells supplies in order to make a craft item, can use that platform in order to sell it internationally. We, as it says there, it's a place to shop locally and internationally for everything that you need in those different areas. By the numbers, we're doing very, very well. In 2011, we made $525 million for our members. In 2012, we made $895.1 million. So it's like a 300 million. I don't know, I can't really get the numbers right there, but you know, there was a substantial increase there. We have 875 active sellers. We have 41 million unique visitors. We have actually now, since these slides were done a couple of days ago, we've gone from 22 million to 25 million members. We're growing very, very fast. And as far as the startup has gone, we've scaled incredibly well. We also have transactions in 200 countries. And when we say transactions, that means that either the buyer or the seller are in 2 separate countries. We started in 2005 by a guy called Rob Phelan. Rob Phelan was a carpenter. He used to make these really fantastic boxes for desktop computers. Do you remember seeing those where you could shelve your desktop computer in like a wooden box? He used to make those, he didn't really know where to sell them. eBay wasn't quite right for him, so he decided to start Etsy, and it grew from there. So that means we have 875,000 stories to tell, and a lot of our shop owners are women. 97% of our audience are women. That is both seller and buyer. We have a lot of sellers in Australia. We have sellers in so many countries, it's really quite amazing. And one of our great strengths and one of the things that has set us apart from other online platforms is that we're very community focused, and that we've been quite, unlike some platforms where you have to apply to get in, or eBay, which is really the sensation you get from eBay is that it's very skewed towards something like sporting goods or electronic goods. Etsy's really been about, I've made this thing, there is a story to tell in this thing that I've made, and I want to share it with you. And the customer base that we've managed to attract has been very, they're all very interested in that story. So it's been really viral. This is a shop seller that we have in Brisbane. Her name's Kathy, and Kathy has a disability, which means that she's unable to actually work in a manual job, and she's been able to create a business making digital prints of nurseries, for nurseries, and she was a featured Etsy seller in 2012. She's a great chick too. So I don't really want to go on too much about Etsy as much, and I think that talking about B Corp is really more important, but Etsy has evolved a lot from its early days, and one of the things is that we've really honed our vision from what was like a lot of different ideas from a lot of different creative people down to what it is that we're representing now. And our vision is to reimagine commerce in ways that build a more fulfilling and lasting world, which is something that's really at the heart of Etsy, because we support handmade, we support the small maker, and we also support people who are trying to live their passion, whether that means that they only sell on Etsy, you know, a couple of items a month so that they can go out to dinner with their husband, or if it's something where they want to make a sustainable business and using Etsy as their platform to reach their international market. So the values break down into these points here, and I think I've illustrated that by my conversation, so I won't go through them, but we're certainly a very mindful business. Sorry?
Yeah, just a question. Is it still vintage?
Yeah, absolutely. Vintage is still available on Etsy. In fact, it's one of our strongest. It's one of our strongest areas.
It's not just vintage, yeah.
No, there's more than vintage. There's vintage, there's handmade, and supplies. They're our 3 different areas that you can sell. So we're very much about planning for the long term. We're very much about craftsmanship. We're very much about fun, and we're also really about keeping it real always. So our craftsmanship is not only about people who are selling things on the site, but it's about the people who create the site. We have Coder's Craft, which is talking about the creativity that comes from an engineering, a scientific background. Anything that you do can be creative, and we really embrace that as part of our company ethos. So there needed to be a way that we could measure this and also put our money where our mouth was. And one of the ways that we've done that is we decided that we would become a B Corporation. And Etsy really truly believes that you should stay handmade. And I'm going to pass over to Mele-Ane to talk about what it's like to be a B Corporation and how to apply for it in Australia.
Thanks, Kirsteene. Sorry, it's quite loud. My name is Mele-Ane Havea. I work for an organisation called Small Giants, which is often really hard to define, and even I have a hard time doing it. So I'll give it my best shot. What we do is we invest in businesses that have a positive social or environmental impact. This is our team. We're a really small team. We've only been around for about 3 years, and we've made about 12 investments in a number of different industries and in a number of different companies. I brought along some presents, which will best illustrate the kind of companies that we partner with. Oh, yes, okay, cool, great, help me. Now these are only going to be interesting for about half of the audience, but...
I want some tampons.
Oh.
Sorry. Who didn't get a pen? Who didn't get some? L? Oh, no worries. So, yeah. Oh, how's that? My shot's good. Who wants some peanuts?
So, one of the companies that we've partnered with is To and Promotional, and that's the tampons that you're holding in your hands. These are organic cotton tampons, and they're a wonderful example of the kind of businesses that we invest in. Their reason for being is to give women choice that allows them to make a healthier choice for themselves and also for the environment. Another of our businesses is Dumbo Feather, which we won't throw at you because it's significantly more heavy. But it's a magazine which is structured around 5 long-form interviews, almost mini biographies with extraordinary people. And the idea behind this magazine is that we can be inspired and inspired to do what it is, inspired to live with passion and with purpose, essentially, because all of the people that we profile are people that are doing just that. So I'll leave some of those to the side and grab them if you'd like. Another of the things that we do is environmentally sustainable property development, the Commons, which is at the moment the second property development we've done, and it's in Brunswick. About 40 apartments, almost built and almost sold. So it's the idea behind that is really both environmentally sustainable property development, but also community building. So we've had a number of events where we invite the people that are going to move into the apartments to get together and really form a community in the place that they live, as opposed to just living next to each other. Another of the features of that property is that we don't have any car parks, and that we also have a number of common spaces like a rooftop garden and a cafe downstairs. So that's a bit about us. But when we first started this investment, this way of investing, and tried to explain our philosophy to people, we found that it was quite difficult, because especially in Australia, there's a real distinction between the for-profit investment world and then the not-for-profit charity world. And when we were trying to explain that what we were doing was investing in businesses that made a positive impact in the world, people just couldn't really get it. And we thought, if only there was something that really explained what it was that we did, that really certified the kind of businesses that we wanted to invest in. And that was when we first came across B Corporation. A little bit of a story about B Lab, which is the not-for-profit based in the States, which started the B Corporation. It's founded by 3 guys, 2 of whom used to own an organisation, used to own a company called And One. I don't know if any of you have heard of that. It was a basketball shoe company. And basically, they were built around the idea of community engagement, and a strong part of what they did was their responsibility as a business. And they one day came across a fantastic contract where they supplied the shoes for most of the nurses across the States. And as a result, their revenues went through the roof, and they were bought out. And now all of these values that were so important to them were then completely stripped away as these new owners came in. And this was what gave them the impetus to start the B Corporation certification. They thought, what if there was something that would kind of get into the DNA of companies, that would make sure that their mission had to stay aligned with their mission, even if they had new shareholders or new investors. And so they started B Lab, and the mission of B Lab is to really define and restructure business to be part of the solution of the problems of the world. So they wanted to use the power of business to solve social and environmental problems, just as it says there. So this is just their Declaration of Independence. I'll read it because it's probably too small for you to see, but we envision a new sector of the economy which harnesses the power of private enterprise to create public benefit. This sector is comprised of a new type of corporation, the B Corporation, which is purpose-driven and creates benefit for all stakeholders, not just shareholders. So when we first came across this idea, we thought this is exactly the kind of companies that we invest in, and this is exactly the kind of movement that we want to support. So Small Giants went on to become the first B Corporation in Australia about 7 months ago, and since then we've been joined by 5 more. So what's a certified B Corporation? Basically, it's a company that both does fantastic things, so does well for the environment and for society, but it's also the way that the company carries out its operations. So it has sound governance and transparency in place. It has policies that are environmentally progressive. It has community engagement drivers, and it also has employee policies that are supportive of ownership and engagement. So, unlike traditional businesses, there are more stringent transparency requirements and also higher legal accountability standards. So you think to yourself, why, aside from doing the right thing, why would a company want to become a B Corp? Now in the States, they've been around for about 5 years, and there are now 700 B Corps in the States. And as a result, the certification itself, the stamp, the identifier, is a lot better known than it is here in Australia. And so it offers all the companies that become B Corporations a chance to differentiate their brand an opportunity to maintain their mission, which is something that I spoke about in terms of the And One company and their experience of selling to investors. It generates a lot of press. It's a wonderful community to join. And it also helps, the bottom point is quite interesting, it helps with improving and benchmarking performance in terms of both social and environmental outcomes. So how did Etsy become a B Corp? In the same way that all of us did. Basically, it's a fairly simple process. There's an online, free, confidential assessment tool, which you can sign up to and all of you and your businesses can use. It's a wonderful way to actually, as I said, benchmark your performance against other companies. But it's also a great way to see how you're measuring up in terms of specific parts of your business. You then meet legal requirements, which is something that's really only relevant in the States at the moment. And finally, you make it official. We thought a great way to talk about this in a little more detail would be to look specifically at the impact report that you get.
So Etsy went ahead and went forward with their B Corporation status. Oh, that sounds like my phone. It's probably one of my kids saying, "What are you doing?" Our overall score was 80. It says 80 there, but we actually got 81. I think there is a little typo. So in order to be considered a B Corp, you're supposed to get a score of 80. So we literally just scraped through. And we had a couple of areas where we fell down. And as you can see, look, it might be a little bit sore. I'm dreadfully sorry. One thing I'm not very good at, making slideshows. I should definitely get an assistant to do that or some sort of graphic designer. But so there was a few areas where we fell down. And I'd like to talk about what we've done after getting our B Corporation that has helped us raise our score. So one of the areas that we fell down was transparency. We actually did okay. Etsy is a very transparent company. We publish a weather report on our blog at the end of every month, which will tell you how much money we made, how much of that went to our community, because we only take 3.5% of the sale, plus 20 cents for a listing fee, but generally a very small amount. Our take rate's pretty low. So we communicate that every week, every month. So we got a really good transparency rating, and corporate accountability we got an excellent rating for, because we were an extremely accountable company. I don't even know how to say that properly, sorry. So, but one of the areas that we did fall down was in workers, our compensation, benefits and training. We got 1% out of the points available. The other area where we fell down on was our community, our local involvement, our suppliers and distributors. And another area where we fell down on was our environment, especially in outputs. So I want to address a couple of things that we've done in the meantime to fix those problems. So unfortunately my notes are a little bit all over the place. Give me a moment. So I'm going to start with, let's make sure I've got them. So, have you got the clicker? I need the clicker. I need the clicker. So, first thing that we did was we started an Etsy Values and Impact team, which was run by the person that hired me, which was our international marketing manager, who's now the VP of Values and Impact for Etsy. His job is to ensure that we keep Etsy weird, as in we keep it real always. And it's to be the company that we had the potential to be. And I must say that working for Etsy can be incredibly inspiring at times, because we really do have some fantastic programs as a company. We first and foremost have the responsibility to do business as unusual. Also, our other part of the Values and Impact team is to consider all 4 stakeholders. And these stakeholders are not the usual stakeholders. Our stakeholders are our investors, our employees, our communities and our planet. And we have to think about each of the decisions we make for the business and how it's going to affect all 4 of these stakeholders. So this team was set up, and we've had a number of really fantastic things that have happened in the office. This is a green wall that's been put in by Jennifer Nishinka, who is our internal interior designer, I suppose, is a way describe her. So this is a living green wall that creates obviously a CO2 suck, which is lovely. We also have a wonderful recycling program. This is the Etsy recycling bike. So we work with a farm, which is a little bit away from our head office in Brooklyn, and we recycle all of our plates from Etsy, which I'll tell you about in a minute, and we also recycle as much as possible. It goes down to this farm and it gets put into landfill compost, not landfill, other way around. It gets put into compost. Oh, sugar, what's that going on? Stop. Move the mouse. Okay, great. So 2 times, I think probably one of the best things about working in it, oh my god, how was that stress? It's like when you get down to the little red bar on your computer and you're like, oh my god, where's the charger? One of the things that we do as a company is that twice a week we have this really fantastic communal meal at our offices called Etsy, and we actually encourage people to attend it. We often have special guests that come along. This doesn't happen in Melbourne, by the way, this happens in our Brooklyn office. But all of the food is catered for by local businesses who are buying their supplies from local businesses, and it's part of our commitment to ensuring that we, live out our B Corporation status. So all of that food is served on recycled and compostable plates and knives, and there is someone at the end of the session. It's like, when you're at school and someone would do the bin and make sure you put your banana skin in the bin. It's a bit like that. Someone stands there at the end and makes sure that you put your recycling in the right bin. It's great. So that's some of the things that we're doing in the office environment. So a part of that recycling program is that we decided that it was really important that we spoke with someone and tracked our carbon footprint across a number of offices, because we not only have our Brooklyn office, but we officially have also our data centre, which is in New Jersey, which uses up 80% of all the electricity that Etsy uses. We also have an office in Hudson, which is in upstate New York, and an office in Germany, which has about 20 staff. So we hired a company called Closed Loop Advisors, who were able to help us get a baseline environmental impact. Why does that say Etsy trash cart, damn it? We got the Etsy Waste and Recycling snapshot from Q4 2012, and from there we've been able to look at where we've got holes and leaks in our recycling program and what we can do to fix that. So that's the first thing we've done to ensure that we have a better environmental score the next time we go for a B Corp certification. One of the other areas that Etsy failed, well not failed, but certainly didn't get the score that we probably wanted to get, was in diversity in the workplace and diversity in what we do. So in order to improve that score and to ensure that we were living out the values that we believe in, is that we have sponsored the Hacker School, which happens in Brooklyn in the summer. It goes for 3 months. As part of that sponsorship, we sponsored 20 women to join into that hacker program. And after that hacker program, sorry, let's just make sure I'm on the right place, yes. We increased the female engineers at Etsy by 500%, which was really important news in anyone who's interested in the tech industry. It was picked up by people like Jezebel, who have an excellent international reach. So as far as press goes, it was really fantastic for us. And we've also increased the intellectual property that we have available to us at Etsy by hiring all these really fantastic women who potentially may not have been able to enter into the workforce in New York. So that's really helped us take back to to provide diversity that we've always wanted to provide, particularly because Etsy, even though the platform itself sells handmade, vintage and supplies, is very much a tech company. So as a general rule in our engineering environment, it's been heavily dominated by men. And you'll find that more women will be in merchandising, they'll be in community and support, and they will be in marketing. One of the other things that we scored quite early on was how we were able to train and support community. So we've done 2 programs in order to improve that. The first is Hello Etsy, which is the brainchild of our VP and Impacts Manager, Matt Stitchcombe. It happens once a year. The first one was in September 2011, which was exactly when I got my job, and I remember it happening and I'm freaking out and going, this is absolutely amazing. It was in Germany. 6 o'clock in the morning, yay! So what it is that it's a full day experiment in reimagining the marketplace, and we have 4 different areas that we're talking about. That is reimagining work, reimagining community, reimagining commerce, and reimagining money. Oh, hang on. Yes, no, that's correct. So it's a full weekend of programming, and in that programming we invite, it's very low cost to go, it's $85 to go, and it's really fantastic for our community. We meet up with a lot of like-minded businesses, and we're able to train our community in higher principles of business, which is really fantastic. So that's happening this weekend, which is really great, and we're going to have one every year. So if you see it coming up and I think it might interest you, you should definitely attend. You'll meet lots of great people. Oh, spelling mistake. So the other thing that we've done is we're actually starting to look at the Etsy economy in general. And one of the things that the Etsy economy really means is that small producers are able to reach their customers without as many middlemen as required, which means that most of the profits will go back to an individual, and that individual will be able to improve their lives. So in August, Chad Dickerson got a tweet from Larry Morrison. Larry Morrison is the mayor of Rockford, Illinois, which is it's pretty much Rust Belt. It's traditional, it's a traditional manufacturing background, and they were starting to really struggle as a town. And I think that Mayor Larry, was very interested in a people-powered economy, which is something that Etsy believes in. So he contacted Chad, who is our very charismatic CEO. If you ever get a chance to talk to him, please do, he's amazing. And they decided that they were going to put together a curriculum. Etsy has a program called Teams, which is basically people who are selling on the platform will start to get together around things like their location, or whether they're interested in photography or something like that. So it's like a self-organising application on the site. So Larry got involved. The leader of the local Etsy team, the Rockford Etsy team, saw it and said, we would love to do something with Etsy around this. We had a couple of admins who went out to Rockford, Illinois. Those admins met with the mayor's office, and they came up with the Craft Entrepreneur Net curriculum, which uses the Etsy platform and the Etsy marketplace as the learning lab. It's taught by teachers who live in Rockford, Illinois, but it's not a prerequisite that you have to use Etsy as your online platform. It's literally just using Etsy's learning and Etsy's environment in a way to build small skills so you can grow your business, particularly businesses that are involved in handmade. So there are a lot of businesses in those areas that are involved in leather work. They've worked traditionally in manufacturing and have traditional skills, but they're unable to use them in a large-scale manufacturing force now. So this is a way of ensuring that they're empowered in order to fulfill their needs for their lives. Well, that seemed quite abrupt, but it's not. It's just that I didn't really have any slides that I needed to share after that. But I did want to stress that. So becoming a B Corporation is really quite a simple process. There's a lot of advantages to it. And that once you get your score, it's very easy to see what it is that your business in general can do to become more impactful. And this is what Etsy really believes in. We didn't take our score and get 81 and go, that's it, we've got our score, we're fantastic. We're striving to improve it and to ensure that we remain true to the B Corp principles, which is why we've put together all these great programs. So thank you very much for listening to me. And Mele-Ane, did you have anything that you wanted to add? No?
Well, actually, sure. Thank you. I just wanted to let you all know that we, since becoming a B Corp here, we've been quite instrumental in getting a group of like-minded businesses together to try and to really grow this movement in Australia. And so there's a couple of initiatives that are underway at the moment, and we're currently hiring for a CEO manager to really take a lot of the leads that we've relationships that we've developed in the last 7 months and grow this movement. So if anybody is interested or knows anyone who is, I just put it out there that we're hiring and looking for someone great.
Is there any cost involved in becoming a B Corp?
There is. For international B Corps, it's about $1,200. It's and it's scaled according to your revenues.
So it's just an accreditation. So it's an accreditation. How does it stick with each other shareholders? And just say like the example of share company.
Well, in the from the accreditation perspective, it's an annual audit. So every year you have to continue to prove that the kind of policies that you had in place and the community engagement or whatever it was that you relied upon to get accredited is still in place. Otherwise, you won't. That's true. That's true. In the States, they have another limb of what BLab actually do, which is a new type of corporate form, and that's where it really starts to be quite meaningful. And what they've done there in almost half of the states in the US is create a new corporate form where they've redefined what the director's duties are.
So you think if there's enough accreditation in Australia, will ASIC start to progress?
Absolutely. And some of the conversations that we've been having have been with key policy leaders in this space who, surprisingly, as excited as corporate lawyers get, are quite excited about it. So, saying something.
Can you talk a bit about how it's very different to social entrepreneurship? Not saying it the right way, but that emphasis on making profit, being profit driven is not a bad thing.
Yeah, that's something that's I'm quite passionate about actually, and I think as Rashenda said, I spent a fair bit of time overseas, and I was working in this area overseas, and when I came back I was struck by the fact that in Australia we have we're so afraid of profits. We have such a kind of, in the social space, we have such a fear of business, and we automatically assume that business is a bad thing, and I completely disagree with that. And I think that the fact that B Corp and Etsy is such a wonderful example of this, they've managed to really show that making money is not necessarily a bad thing. It's about what you do, both with that money and also the way that you make it. You know, it's about responsible business, which is a really positive thing.
Did you have any specific questions about Etsy? Anyone?
How many employees are in Australia?
5 in Australia, 2 in Melbourne, 3 in Sydney. We work across all the marketing functions. So we have I'm the head of the marketing comms for Australia. So I work across PR, merchandising, marketing, digital marketing, print marketing. And we have 2 people who work with our seller development team. So we are basically a function of the head office.
And does Etsy have its own shop inside the shop to trial categories or things?
We don't trial different categories or anything like that. We do have an Etsy shop where we sell stickers and badges and t-shirts and things that are branded with Etsy on them. So we've had iterations of promo things that we've made that we just put up in our Etsy shop when we get time. Yes?
Do any of your members have bricks and mortar outlets as well?
That's actually an excellent question. So Etsy really tries to place itself within a sustainable handmade business. Me personally, I'm actually a great example of someone who's used Etsy for great success. So when I was running my jewellery business, and I think that this is the way that Etsy envisages itself as part of something that you're doing, I had 90 wholesale shops that I wholesale to. I had a market store, which I considered my bricks and mortar. I was there every Saturday and Sunday. I branded it as my own. It was my own little shop. Sure, it was like my own little counter in David Jones of the handmade world, but that's okay. I loved my counter. And I also had online shops. And Etsy was an online shop, and Etsy was really important to me because I reach an international market. So Etsy really positions itself and believes that it's actually part of, if you want to create a viable handmade business or a viable small business, it's part of a whole lot of the jigsaw. It's not the whole solution, but it certainly is a great big part of it. So yeah, that's the way I saw it, and that's the way it certainly sees itself. Yes?
What proportion of your revenues come from Australia?
I can't give you the exact figure on that, just because as a private company we don't share that information very readily. However, I can tell you that we are in the top 5 marketplaces, top 5 in both buyer and seller side of the marketplace worldwide. And that's on par with countries like Canada and the UK and the US, which all have significantly larger proportion of population that we do. So we're certainly punching above our weight, absolutely. We do have a very strong seller community and a very strong buyer community. We have a lot of strength in the buyer side, because as a general rule, I think that Australians are actually quite open to technologies, and they're really open to online shopping, and particularly because Etsy has a lot of supplies and a lot of vintage. With our traditionally low manufacturing base, you would find that Australians are very attracted to the breadth of vintage and supplies that are available from Europe, Asia, and the US. Does that answer your question sufficiently?
Not really.
Unfortunately, I can't say any more than that. Sorry. Hi.
Hi.
Oh, sorry. I'll come back to you, Matt. Sorry.
Yes, do you know what percentage of your members or sellers have their own website as well?
Actually, I don't know if that is something that we have looked at. It's very difficult to define, because when you sign up for a shop on the site, that's not information we ask from you. So we'd have to do an individual study. It's not something we can get from our big data stack.
Gut feel?
Gut feel? I can't really give you that. There's like 22 million members. It's really tough to even give you a percentage, I'm afraid. Yeah, but I know that we have sellers that work in very different parts of their business. So you have people who will start there when they're quite small. They generally don't have their own website. They'll use it as their first entree into the market. Then you have people who are more established, and they will use Etsy alongside their eponymous site. So yeah.
Why the big gender divide?
In the company?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's because Etsy, while our audience base are women, the base of people that work for us, we're a strong tech company. We have a lot of people who work in data, a lot of people who work in software engineering. As a general rule, we've found that men have been hired and that men are in those positions. So that's why we've tried to address it with our hacker program. And we have increased the amount of women that work in the technical side of the business by 500%. So we're certainly addressing it. But yeah, I think it's across all tech companies. You'll find that.
I mean, actually, the buyers and the sellers.
Oh, the buyers and the sellers?
Why do you think that 75% are women?
That's interesting. I think
or to frame it another way, why is only 2% or 2.5% men? Are they not interested in?
No, men. We have sellers and buyers that are men, but I find as a general rule, men are more likely to. For anyone who's worked in retail, you'll find that men will walk into the same shop on the same day every year and buy the same thing, and they'll buy 10 of it in lots of different colours, and then they won't go back for the rest of the year. So we're finding that the men who are using Etsy are people who are buying gifts to their partners. So they're buying, beautiful vintage rings, or might potentially buying their engagement ring, or they're buying lingerie, or they're buying shaving equipment, or they're buying a fantastic handmade leather bag, or things like that. So we certainly cater to our male market, but you'll find that generally that women are, more receptive to online shopping than men. And I literally just think that is a gender divide thing. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Yes,
Is there any factors that really contribute to a successful seller other than the product?
Absolutely. There's 2 very important things that you should do if you want to be a successful seller on Etsy. The first thing is that you have to create beautiful product photography. That is absolutely the most essential thing, because you're in an online environment, and online environments require your attention to be captured. So great lighting, fantastic environments, showcasing the product in situation, showcasing the size, showcasing the texture. The other thing is using your tags appropriately.
Great, thank you.
No problem. Yes?
Sorry, me.
That's okay.
What's been your biggest success story in terms of revenue, in terms of an individual seller?
An individual seller? That's difficult to answer. But information like that is usually very easily available online. We have lots of people who use our API program in order to pull that sort of data from the site. So I would look at something like Craft Count. That's an excellent place to start. Craft Count will give you a breakdown of who is selling the most in each country, and it will also give you a breakdown by who is selling the most by each category. That's not something that Etsy has made, that is someone who's using our API, but our API is pretty strong and we've had some great things that have come from it. Yeah, great. Are you a journalist by any chance, Craig? No, just checking. You know, make sure you fact check with me before you publish anything, alright? Wonderful. Does anyone else have any questions for me or anything else about B Corp? Mele-Ane has like plenty of info to share.
And some free magazines.
And some free magazines, yes.
How much of a presence does B Corp have in the UK? Is that quite fertile?
It's actually a really interesting question because surprisingly they don't have much of a presence at all. I don't even know if there are any British B Corps. There's a couple in Germany and some in the Netherlands, but the UK is quite an interesting market because it's had something called the social enterprise mark, which essentially did the same thing, but not as successfully really. We can talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to bring it into the UK. I'd love to be able to connect you up with some companies and
Oh, that would be wonderful.
see if we can sort of introduce it to you.
Yeah, there's.
Sounds like the UK needs it.
Well, I think it's the thing about the B Corp that's so wonderful is that it's industry agnostic and it's also corporate structure agnostic. So there's a lot of conversation in the social enterprise space about the kind of legal structure that we should have, and you know, is a co-op's best, or should we quarantine our profits, and how do we maintain mission? And B Corp just cuts through all of that and says, look, you can be structured, you can be owned in whatever way. It's essentially how you operate, what you do, that matters.
Are there any talks or any thoughts about advocating governments for tax breaks or any kind of rewards for that?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. I think that's something that definitely needs to happen as we build up the number of companies that certify and then also the infrastructure that they sit within. And interestingly, in the States, there's been because the corporate law and the tax law is all on a state-by-state basis in America, then there's been some places where tax breaks have been introduced. Philadelphia, for example, is one of those. And in San Francisco, in the city, they've introduced preferential treatment for B Corps for supplying to the city, to the municipality. So it's there's a whole lot of incentives that can be built into this system, and I actually think we're at a really great advantage here in Australia because we're a federal system and we have a one body, essentially ASIC, you're asked to deal with in order to address some of those things. Any other questions?
In Australia, is it being managed by or certified by the same people as in the States, or is there like a...
No, it's still certified by B Lab. And they haven't actually given up the certification to anyone else, despite having a really strong presence in South America and also in Canada. And that's because they need to protect the integrity of the certification. And I think that this early stage, they've only been around for 5 years or so. It's vital to kind of keep it close before they grow.
I've heard the mention of another movement, maybe it's similar, called conscious capitalism. Is it similar? Is it integrated at all, or how does it work?
Yeah, it's absolutely similar. It's really interesting because I think there's a lot of people having quite similar conversations. Conscious capitalism, ideas around collaborative consumption, you know, the social enterprise movement. It's all about values-driven businesses or operations, and I think we know the conscious capitalism guys. They're really great.
because I don't want to keep you all too late, but if we could thank these guys for speaking tonight, especially considering they're very busy and travelling often.